walking forward with courage and conscience. History does not move forward on its own. It is carried on the shoulders of ordinary people who choose what is right over what is easy. Every generation faces moments when silence feels safer than truth and comfort feels wiser than courage. Yet progress is born when individuals decide to walk forward anyway, guided not by fear, but by conscience. Today we are called to remember that justice does not arrive by accident. It arrives when brave hearts step forward with moral clarity and unwavering hope. Courage is often misunderstood as a natural trait possessed by a few heroic individuals, but in reality it is a deliberate moral choice available to everyone. It is not rooted in physical strength or loud defiance, but in the quiet decision to stand for what is right, even when doing so carries personal risk. Moral courage emerges at the moment when a person recognizes injustice and must choose between comfort and conscience. Fear is always present in such moments, yet courage is born when fear is acknowledged but not allowed to rule action. Choosing courage means accepting responsibility for one's values. It requires an individual to move beyond neutrality, because remaining silent in the face of wrongdoing is itself a moral decision. History repeatedly shows that injustice thrives not only because of those who commit wrong, but because of those who witness it and choose not to act. Courage challenges this passivity. It demands engagement, whether through speaking truth, resisting unfair systems, or defending the dignity of others when it would be easier to look away. Moral courage often comes at a cost. It may lead to criticism, isolation, loss of status, or even danger. Yet the willingness to accept these consequences is what gives courage its ethical power. When individuals act courageously, they affirm that moral principles are more valuable than personal safety or social approval. This choice transforms courage into a force that reshapes societies because it disrupts systems built on fear and silence. Courage as a moral choice is deeply connected to integrity. It requires alignment between belief and action. Many people know what is right, but fewer are willing to live according to that knowledge when circumstances become difficult. Moral courage bridges this gap. It pushes individuals to act consistently with their values, even when those actions are unpopular or misunderstood. In this way, courage becomes an expression of authenticity and moral clarity. This form of courage is not reserved for dramatic moments alone. It appears in everyday decisions, standing up for a marginalized voice in a classroom, refusing to participate in discrimination at work, challenging unfair traditions within families or communities, and choosing honesty when deception would bring advantage. These small acts accumulate over time, creating cultural shifts that redefine what a society accepts as normal or just. Courage as a moral choice also inspires others. When one person chooses to act with conscience, it lowers the barrier for others to do the same. Fear is contagious, but so is bravery. Acts of moral courage create ripple effects, encouraging collective action and shared responsibility. They remind communities that change does not begin with institutions, but with individuals who are willing to step forward. Ultimately, moral courage reflects faith in justice itself. It assumes that truth matters, that human dignity is worth defending, and that progress is possible through ethical action. It calls individuals to see themselves not as passive observers of history, but as active participants whose choices shape the moral direction of their time. Conscience represents the inner moral awareness that guides individuals toward what is right, even when that path is uncomfortable or demanding. Choosing conscience over convenience means allowing ethical principles to outweigh personal comfort, social approval, or immediate benefit. Convenience often tempts people to remain silent, to follow the crowd, or to accept unfair systems simply because challenging them requires effort or sacrifice. Conscience, however, urges individuals to question these easy paths and to act in alignment with justice and integrity. In many situations, convenience disguises itself as practicality. People justify inaction by claiming that speaking out will not change anything, or that it is not the right time. While such reasoning may appear logical, it frequently masks fear of conflict, loss, or discomfort. Conscience cuts through these excuses by reminding individuals of their moral responsibility. It asks not what is easiest, but what is right, and it demands accountability for the consequences of ignoring injustice. Choosing conscience often involves risk. It may lead to strained relationships, professional setbacks, or social isolation. Yet moral progress has never been achieved through convenience. Societies evolve when individuals are willing to endure discomfort in pursuit of fairness and equality. Conscience-driven actions challenge unjust norms and expose the ethical cost of maintaining comfort at the expense of others' suffering. In this sense, inconvenience becomes a necessary price for meaningful change. Conscience over convenience also requires self-examination. It calls individuals to reflect on their own complicity in unjust systems. Benefiting from unfair structures can make moral choices especially difficult, as change may demand relinquishing privilege or advantage. Conscience insists that ethical integrity cannot be selective. It asks individuals to consider how their comfort may be built upon the hardship of others, and whether that comfort can be justified morally. This principle applies not only to large social movements, but to daily life. Everyday decisions often present subtle moral tests, such as choosing honesty over ease, fairness over favoritism, or empathy over indifference. These moments shape character and define personal integrity. When conscience guides action consistently, it builds trust within communities and reinforces shared moral standards. Placing conscience above convenience also strengthens democratic and social institutions. Laws and systems depend on individuals who are willing to uphold ethical values, even when doing so is unpopular. Whistleblowers, reformers, and advocates for justice frequently act from conscience, knowing that their choices may bring personal hardship. Their willingness to prioritize moral duty over ease exposes corruption and safeguards the rights of others. Ultimately, conscience over convenience reflects a commitment to human dignity and justice. It recognizes that moral responsibility does not end where discomfort begins. By choosing conscience, individuals affirm that ethical principles are not negotiable based on personal comfort. Such choices accumulate, shaping societies that value fairness over ease and justice over silence. Nonviolence is often misinterpreted as passivity or weakness, yet it represents one of the most disciplined and powerful forms of resistance. Choosing nonviolence requires immense inner strength, emotional control, and moral clarity. It is not the absence of action, but a deliberate commitment to confront injustice without replicating the harm one seeks to end. Nonviolence transforms struggle into a force that appeals to conscience rather than fear, and seeks to redeem rather than destroy. At its core, nonviolence demands self-mastery. When individuals face oppression, anger and retaliation may feel natural, but nonviolent action requires restraint in the face of provocation. This restraint is not submission. It is a strategic and ethical choice that prevents injustice from escalating into cycles of hatred and revenge. By refusing to respond with violence, individuals deny oppressors the moral justification for further cruelty and reveal the injustice of their actions to the wider world. Nonviolence draws its strength from moral authority. Violent resistance may overpower an enemy temporarily, but it often leaves behind deeper wounds and enduring resentment. Nonviolence, by contrast, exposes the contrast between justice and injustice in a way that violence cannot. It appeals to shared humanity and forces society to confront the ethical implications of oppression. This moral appeal can awaken empathy, shift public opinion, and pressure institutions to change. The effectiveness of nonviolence also lies in its inclusiveness. Unlike violent struggle, which often requires weapons or physical force, nonviolence allows people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities to participate. It turns collective action into a unifying force, building solidarity rather than fear. Through marches, boycotts, sit-ins, and peaceful protest, nonviolence mobilizes communities and transforms ordinary citizens into agents of change. Nonviolence requires courage because it involves vulnerability. Those who practice it often face hostility, ridicule, or physical harm without retaliating. Enduring suffering without responding in kind demands profound bravery and faith in justice. This willingness to accept hardship rather than inflict harm demonstrates a strength rooted in principle rather than power. It reveals that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in remaining faithful to moral values under pressure. Nonviolence also aims at long-term transformation rather than short-term victory. Violence may force compliance, but it rarely changes hearts. Nonviolence seeks reconciliation by addressing the root causes of injustice and restoring dignity to all parties involved. It envisions a future where former adversaries can coexist without fear or resentment, making justice sustainable rather than temporary. As a philosophy and practice, nonviolence redefines power itself. It shifts the focus from physical control to moral influence and collective resolve. By choosing nonviolence, individuals assert that justice cannot be built through cruelty, and that lasting change arises from disciplined compassion and unwavering commitment to human dignity. Justice is often spoken of as the duty of leaders, institutions, or laws, yet in truth it is a collective responsibility shared by every member of society. No system of justice can function or endure without the active participation of individuals who are willing to uphold fairness in their daily lives. When people assume that justice is someone else's task, injustice gains space to grow. Shared responsibility recognizes that every action, no matter how small, contributes either to the preservation of justice or to its erosion. At the heart of shared responsibility is the understanding that societies are interconnected. The well-being of one group cannot be separated from the well-being of others. Injustice affecting any segment of society ultimately weakens the moral fabric of the whole. When individuals ignore discrimination, inequality, or abuse because it does not directly impact them, they become silent partners in sustaining injustice. Shared responsibility calls individuals to care beyond their immediate interests and to recognize their role in shaping a just community. Justice requires participation, not spectatorship. Laws and policies alone cannot guarantee fairness unless citizens actively support and defend them. Voting, civic engagement, community organizing, and peaceful advocacy are expressions of shared responsibility. These actions ensure that justice is not abstract, but lived and practiced. When individuals participate, they give justice visibility and strength, reinforcing the values that uphold equality and human dignity. Shared responsibility also demands moral courage. Speaking out against injustice can be uncomfortable and risky, especially when it challenges social norms or powerful interests. Yet justice advances when ordinary people refuse to remain silent. Courageous voices, joined together, have the power to disrupt unfair systems and demand accountability. Collective action magnifies individual effort, transforming isolated concern into meaningful change. Education and awareness play a critical role in shared responsibility. Understanding social issues, historical injustices, and current inequalities equips individuals to respond thoughtfully and effectively. Ignorance, whether intentional or not, allows injustice to persist unchallenged. Shared responsibility requires a commitment to learning, listening, and engaging with perspectives different from one's own, fostering empathy and informed action. This principle also emphasizes accountability within communities. Justice is not only about opposing large-scale oppression, but also about addressing unfairness in personal and local contexts. Challenging prejudice, supporting victims of wrongdoing, and promoting fairness in schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods are essential expressions of shared responsibility. These local efforts form the foundation of broader social justice. Shared responsibility for justice ultimately affirms that change is not the result of a single heroic act, but of sustained collective effort. When individuals recognize their interconnected roles and act with integrity, justice becomes a shared practice rather than a distant ideal, shaping societies that are fair, inclusive, and resilient. Hope is not a passive feeling or a simple wish for better days. It is an active force that sustains individuals and movements through struggle and uncertainty. In times of injustice, hardship, and despair, hope becomes the energy that prevents surrender. It allows people to envision a future that differs from the present and gives meaning to the sacrifices required to reach that future. Without hope, efforts for change lose direction and perseverance fades under the weight of obstacles. Hope fuels resilience. When progress seems slow or setbacks occur, hope reminds individuals that temporary failures do not define ultimate outcomes. It strengthens the ability to endure hardship without losing purpose. Rather than denying reality, hope confronts difficulties with the belief that transformation is possible. This belief does not eliminate pain or struggle, but it provides the emotional and moral strength needed to continue moving forward. As a driving force, hope inspires action rather than waiting. It motivates individuals to participate in change because it affirms that their efforts matter. Hope challenges apathy and counters the belief that injustice is permanent or unchangeable. When people hope, they act with intention, trusting that consistent effort can reshape systems and attitudes. In this way, hope becomes the bridge between vision and action. Hope also unites people. Shared hope creates a sense of collective purpose that binds individuals across differences of background, belief, and experience. It transforms isolated struggles into a common journey. Movements rooted in hope foster solidarity because participants believe not only in change, but in one another. This collective optimism strengthens cooperation and sustains momentum, even during moments of doubt. Hope has a moral dimension. It affirms faith in human dignity and the possibility of justice. By hoping, individuals assert that cruelty and inequality are not the final truths of human society. Hope resists cynicism and despair, which often serve as barriers to change. It insists that ethical values are worth defending, even when success is uncertain or delayed. Education and storytelling play a powerful role in nurturing hope. Learning about past victories against injustice reminds individuals that change has occurred before under difficult circumstances. Stories of courage, sacrifice, and perseverance renew confidence in the effectiveness of moral action. Hope grows when people recognize themselves as part of a larger historical struggle for justice and equality. Hope also demands responsibility. It is not blind optimism, but a commitment to work toward the future it imagines. True hope requires discipline, patience, and effort. It calls individuals to align their actions with their vision of a better world. Through this commitment, hope becomes a force that not only sustains dreams, but drives lasting progress and moral renewal. Walking forward together represents the understanding that lasting progress is achieved through unity rather than isolation. Social change is rarely the result of individual effort alone. It emerges when people recognize their shared humanity and commit to moving in the same direction despite differences. Division weakens the pursuit of justice, while unity strengthens it by combining voices, resources, and resolve. Walking together requires the willingness to see others not as obstacles, but as partners in a collective journey toward fairness and dignity. This principle emphasizes cooperation across boundaries of race, class, culture, and belief. Injustices often thrive by separating people and convincing them that their struggles are unrelated. Walking forward together challenges this separation by highlighting interconnected experiences and common goals. When individuals understand that their freedom is linked to the freedom of others, solidarity replaces indifference, and mutual support becomes a powerful force for change. Walking together also demands empathy and listening. Unity is not achieved by ignoring differences, but by acknowledging them with respect. Listening to diverse perspectives deepens understanding and prevents justice movements from becoming narrow or exclusionary. Through dialogue and mutual respect, people build trust, which is essential for sustained collective action. Empathy allows individuals to carry not only their own burdens, but also the concerns of others. Shared movement requires shared sacrifice. Walking forward together means accepting that progress may require compromise, patience, and personal loss. Some may need to step back so others can step forward, recognizing that equity sometimes demands unequal effort in the short term. This willingness to sacrifice for the common good strengthens moral bonds and reinforces commitment to collective goals. Walking forward together transforms strength. Alone, individuals may feel powerless against entrenched systems of injustice. Together, they create momentum that cannot be easily ignored or dismissed. Collective action amplifies voices and legitimizes demands for change. History shows that unified movements possess a resilience and impact far greater than isolated efforts. This principle also reinforces accountability within movements. Walking together requires responsibility toward one another. Individuals must act with integrity, ensuring that their actions do not harm the collective cause. Mutual accountability fosters discipline and ethical consistency, preventing unity from becoming fragile or superficial. Walking forward together ultimately reflects faith in community and shared destiny. It affirms that progress is not about personal victory, but collective advancement. When people commit to moving together, they transform hope into action and build a future rooted in cooperation, justice, and shared responsibility. As we move forward, let us remember that the journey toward justice is not meant to be walked alone, nor delayed by fear or comfort. Each step we take, guided by courage, conscience, nonviolence, shared responsibility, and hope, shapes the world we leave behind. Progress calls us to stand together, to lift one another, and to act with unwavering faith in human dignity. When we walk forward together with moral clarity and unity, we do more than imagine a better future. We begin to build it step by step, heart by heart, and generation by generation.